Welcome, El Camino students, to our second debate between the Republican and Democratic clubs right here. The format today has been changed. Instead of questions made by the Republican and Democrats, this is going to be similar to a town hall style, which means that individuals in the audience can submit their questions to the individual that they choose. You have been handed out a piece of white paper. You do not need to submit a question, but if you wish to, give it to Shannon or Morgan or Mr. Corp, please do so. We will not be able to answer all your questions. The questions will be directed at certain individuals, such as Mr. Lopez or Ms. Desra. All right, at this point, we're going to shut down and not allow anybody else in here because of numbers. Understood, CBS? Good. Answer is no when they want to come in. All right. So our bouncers at the door, I would ask you to be quiet while presentation is going on. If you wish to leave, of course, please do so, but don't step in front of those who are discussing it. They're going to give us a 30-second to minute rundown of their side. The issue, of course, is abortion. The idea right here that they're talking about is when do the legal rights of the fetus or baby apply? The idea of legal rights has to do with, is it at the moment of birth or at conception? And that area of grayness in between. That will be the area of discussion, and both individuals have a different perspective of this. I would understand that there are people in here that have different perspectives as well. And as one person, one of my favorite authors says, that issues like this are always good when they're actually in our own heart. We fight in ourselves about what is right and what is wrong. And the issue of abortion has always been an issue that no one's ever 100% and never changed. People often see different things in their life, and it makes them go one direction or another. So please do not boo, do not clap for anyone. Just please quietly watch and think about your own perspective on the issue while these lovely people present it. All right, Mr. Mario, go ahead and present the side for pro-life.
Right, so my name's Mario Lopez, as some of you may know and some of you may not know. The reason why I'm pro-life is because I believe that the moment of conception, it's been scientifically proven that you have the same genetic makeup from the moment you die to the moment of conception. The only difference is time. Just like an adolescent is not an adult is not an adolescent, but they still have the same genetic makeup, they're still human. So I believe that pro-life stands for life. That doesn't mean just stands for the, it's only for the baby, it's also for the mother. So I believe in pro-life because I feel it's not right to just kill people. That's my stance.
Well, hello everybody. So my name is Chisholm Daram, and I'm representing pro-choice. So first of all, I'd like to start off with what exactly pro-choice is. Pro-choice is not anti-abortion, but rather pro-choice is a protection of the rights of a woman in terms of her fertility. It is not fair for the government or any government official to tell a woman what she should do with her body. So throughout this debate, I hope to prove to you my stance.
Thank you. This question right here is for both, and this is for both. We'll start with mine right here, and then we'll switch over to this now. At what stage of development should the unborn child have human rights, or rights as a citizen of the Republic? All right. At what stage of development should the unborn child have human rights? Sure.
I believe that, and it's been scientifically proven. You can go and Google search this right now if you want. The moment scientists say when there's life. Life starts the moment of conception, the moment of that night the parents have. And in that moment, you have to understand that baby has a different DNA than the mother and the father. In that moment, they become genetically, like, to a certain point, separate from them. They don't have the same DNA as a mom. They don't have the same DNA as a dad. Their self is like one organism. It's been proven. And I believe if they're an organism the moment they're conceived, then they should have rights right away because they're a human. And it's been proven. So that's my stance.
Repeating the same question, this is from Nicole. At what stage of development should an unborn child have human rights?
The stage of development a fetus should have human rights is about 3 months into the pregnancy. Now, in the first 3 months or the first trimester of a pregnancy, a fetus is just purely a group of cells. Now, as a fetus develops, though, after that point, they develop human organs. So they develop a heart, they develop a brain, they develop nerves, and they develop muscle tissues. So it's important, even though a fetus has human DNA, it is not considered a human because it does not contain human. This is not a complete human.
This one question is from Angela. This is to Mr. Lopez. How do you feel about a rape case abortion?
For me, the way that I would handle rape case abortion would be depending on the age of the mother, because every case is different. You can't judge the case. The law should never be, okay, this is for everything. There should be flexibility in the sense that every case is different. In the case of an abortion, depending on the age of the mother, I believe that the mother should still have the baby. The reason is because at the end of the day, that baby also had no fault. Just like the mother had no fault. And I believe if you kill the baby, because it's killing, if you kill the baby, you're killing a life. And that baby, you don't value the mother's life greater than the baby, and you don't value the baby's life greater than the mother. We all have equal value. And it's throughout our society we see that. We see that with the shootings, police shootings. We rise up in protest against those, right? And it should be the same for a baby. Therefore, I believe in a rape case, the mother should still have the baby because the baby was at no fault, and that baby could once be your parents. They may not be the great Mark Zuckerbergs of our time. They may not be the Albert Einsteins of our time, but they can be the friends that make you laugh. They can be the friends that are with you in the hard times. They can also be your teachers that guide you through your years in school, or they can just be even a criminal, because I'm not going to leave out the possibility of there being criminals. But yet, they teach us how to better protect ourselves. And what I believe is, always depending on the case, it depends what to do. I believe if the mother's really young, then if the mother's really young, then depending on who has the higher survival rate, that's the person we save. Because it's pro-life. It's not just pro-baby, it's pro-life. That means the life of the mother and the life of the child.
We'll move on to the next question right here. This is from a family member. This is for Chisholm. Do you think the government has a right to limit access to contraceptives and or abortion, which is almost a separate question right there. Contraceptives and or abortion. We're talking about state governments as well as the national government.
I believe that the state does not have should not have power over abortion. Now, right now in America, there are certain states such as Texas and Nebraska that are limiting abortion. So, for example, there's a push for a 20-week ban on abortion in our country, and to some women who were, say, for example, were raped, that's not fair to them. It's not fair to tell a woman that this is when you can end your pregnancy. A government should have no control over your reproductive rights. Now, also, the rights that you have of abortion and also the decisions you make about abortion should be between your doctor and the woman. No government official has medical jurisdiction or has the medical knowledge needed that a doctor has. So it would be unfair for a doctor for the government to tell a woman what she should do with her baby. On the subject of contraception, contraceptions actually it leads to less abortions because it leads to less abortions. If people are well educated enough to use their contraceptives properly, it will decrease the amount of abortions that we have. Now, the solution to decreasing abortions is not per se to ban abortions, but it is to increase education, sex education for the young people of this country.
Thank you. This next question is a question I created before, and we asked this question by Carol and Sabrina. The question is the Roe v. Wade decision that took place in the 1970s said that first trimester is legal throughout the land, and states cannot deny the first trimester abortion to any woman. Second and third were up to state interpretation, but first trimester is pro-choice throughout the land. My question is, do you believe the Founding Fathers, or the Bill of Rights, gives the impression that a woman has a right to have an abortion? Is it your interpretation of the Constitution, is that there, or is it not and would it be up to the states to decide? All right, so is it a right, as in given to us, that cannot be denied to us through law, or is it something that is not a right, and the states have the right to interpret it? First question would go out to then Mr. Martin.
So I believe that the Constitution doesn't clearly talk about abortion. The reason that they backed up the Roe versus Wade is for the right of privacy shown in the Fourth Amendment. And you also have to see in the First Amendment, in the Bill of Rights, we have the right of speech. We have the right of press. We have the right of coming together, of petitioning and all those. What about the rights of the baby? Shouldn't he or she have the same rights? And in our Declaration of Independence, it also says we have the right to pursue life, to pursue happiness, and we have the right of life. That baby doesn't even have the opportunity to pursue happiness. Pursue it. It never says we're going to accomplish happiness. It says the opportunity to pursue it. And those smiling faces you see at daycares and all those, they have the chance to pursue it. Therefore, I believe the right should stay at least to the state, and the federal government shouldn't control everything.
Thank you. The same question again applying to Judaism. Does the national government, is it a right given in the Constitution or our Bill of Rights that a woman has a right to have an abortion in our First Amendment? Is that interpreted by the Roe v. Wade decision in favor of pro-choice?
I think the Roe versus Wade position was interpreted correctly. In Roe versus Wade, it states that a woman has a right to privacy, and also that privacy, it has to include her body as well. No government should be interfering with the medical decisions that she should have between her doctor and herself. Also, state interpretations. So in Roe versus Wade, it clearly stated that women have the right to abortions in the first trimester. However, and also in other court cases such as Planned Parenthood versus Casey, it states that states have the right to restrict abortions in the second and third trimester, and that's not including the first trimester. So in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, it states that state regulations cannot cause undue burdens to a woman and her fetus. So, through state restrictions, I believe that the second and third trimester, it should go to state rights. But however, the first right, which was the Supreme Court decision, Roe versus Wade, it approved it for the first trimester. So, yeah.
This question coming up. This is from Carol and Sabrina. Do you think that pro-life states are going to outnumber pro-choice states with Trump's future presidency as a Republican controlling the executive branch, the Senate controlled by the Republican Party, the House of Representatives controlled by the Republican Party, and future nominations to the Supreme Court controlled by the Republican Party? Will that change public laws and views on abortion? Question going to Mark.
I honestly can't say. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you yes, it's going to change. But I believe there's a great possibility that happening as the Republicans are taking over of the central government. So I believe there's a great possibility, but there's really no yes or no answer to that. So I really can't say.
Question.
In the third congressional debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump did state that he would appoint pro-life officials in the Supreme Court. So I believe that abortion would probably, even though the narrative of abortion would probably change to more of a pro-life, because it is, at least in California, it is it's heavily advertised for a pro-choice perspective. But however, if Trump does appoint pro-life officials in the Supreme Court and pro-life officials in, say, the Senate or Congress, I believe that there's going to be some type of shift towards pro-life. But I don't necessarily, it is very hard to say that the numbers will exactly change, but I think that there's going to be more media coverage, at least, for pro-life positions.
This next question is from Shannon, and this is to Mario. In countries where abortion is illegal, many women die as a consequence of illegal abortions. If abortion was made illegal in more countries, then more women would die. Is this a valid argument in making abortion illegal? Why or why not?
I'm going to restate what I said before. The reason I'm pro-life, it's pro-life. I'm not pro-abortion. I'm not pro, like, the baby, pro the mother. I'm pro-life. So if I had the power over this country, or as Republicans, what I would do is save the one who can be saved. the most. That whether that means the child or the baby, because at the end of the day, one might lose. So I would stand by the mother in those cases if there's like a real chance that she's gonna die and the baby won't survive. So that's my stance on it, and I believe that illegal abortions, depending on every case, it's always different. We can't just judge it through the general glasses of the people, like of what's going on. Every case is different, every situation, every occurrence is different.
This question's for Chisholm, thank you. Question says basically that a woman has rights. Why doesn't a baby have rights?
Well, I think that one important thing to remember is during a pregnancy, the fetus is not a baby. A fetus is a fetus. It is just a developing human. But at that point in time, the idea of a baby is, at least in our society, a baby is something that's been born, that is out of the womb. So personally, I think that, well, the fetus doesn't have rights because the fetus shouldn't have rights because the rights of the woman trump the rights of a fetus. It is not fair to give the rights to a fetus, give full rights to a fetus who's not even a full human or even a baby, the rights over a woman. A woman is a full-fledged being of society who contributes to it, and it's not fair for someone to put the life of a fetus, something that's not even real yet, above a woman's.
Same question for
First, you said that it's a developing human, the fetus. Am I correct? You said that. She said it's a developing human. It's still human. Though it's developing, it's human. We're developing right now into adults, and we're human. And the mother, I believe no person should have the right to control anybody else. Just like back in the day, the slave masters had rights to control the slaves, I believe against that. The reason is, the baby inside the mom is separate from the mom. It might be in her body, but it's not part of her body. Just like you're in your parents' home. Your parents are the breadwinners of the house, right? So therefore, they act like the mom, right? They control, it's their house, whatever they do, but they still don't have the right to kill you. Though it may be their house, they don't have the right to kill you. And it's the same thing with the baby. We're always developing. We're always growing. We're always changing. And that baby in the uterus is the same thing. It's developing, it's growing, it's changing. And just like you wouldn't leave a newborn baby out on the street after the hospital, it needs to depend on people. It depends on the mother, it depends on the father. But if you were to kill that baby after its birth, you would be arrested, right? So why not with the mother? Because it always depends on the circumstance, but abortion should be the last choice in any situation. And the baby is still alive.
Right now, I only have questions for Mr. Meyer left. All right, I've got questions submitted for Chisholm, so I'll be focusing on him. It is not my intent to show favoritism. It is simply an issue of submission of questions. All right. If anybody wants to submit questions for Chisholm, various Democrats and Republicans will collect them and turn them in to me. This is for Mr. Lopez. What do you think the penalty should be for women who seek out an abortion, or for doctors who perform an abortion?
Right
if
now,
it's made illegal.
If it's made illegal, being made illegal, abortion is death. Scientifically proven, you're taking life. So it should be the same cost as whether you're taking life right now. If I were to take someone's life or someone were to take somebody else's life, it should be the same punishment.
This question was for you, but I'm going to change it over to yourself. Are there any rights given to the child while in the mother at all? And we're talking about second and third trimester rights. Is there a variance of rights right there, or is it only when the child is born?
I believe that rights should be given to children in the second and third trimester. However, in case of medical emergencies, say for example, a woman is suffering from hemorrhage bleeding, or she has a placenta disorder, she should not be forced to carry to term that baby. in the second and third trimester, it should be up to the right of the woman and the medical professional. If a woman has to die in order to give birth to something that might die in itself and also kill her, it doesn't make any sense. And if you want to consider that a fetus is a human or a person, that means two people are dead. So who would you rather have? Would you rather have the mother, or would you rather have a fetus alive?
This question for both parties, so we have to answer this one. And probably the last question before our conclusion. This is from Anthony. Would you ever consider the option of giving the baby fetus up for adoption in a rape situation?
Oh yeah, that baby though. Some may argue that adoption is not always the answer because they could go into bad homes and all that, but you still give the baby a chance. You give that baby the opportunity to become someone in life. You let that baby be your friend. You let that baby be maybe even your parents, or that baby be a uncle that can be there, or even just friends. And I believe that baby should for sure be given for adoption if he's not or she's not wanted. He has life, and life should be valued.
I believe that in terms of rape, it really just depends on the woman. If a woman is not financially or emotionally equipped with dealing with a pregnancy and also giving that baby up for adoption, she should not be forced to adopt. Abortion is a choice and it's an option, but also adoption is as well, and it's up to the woman to make that choice for herself.
Thank you. Last part, this will be a 30-second closing. Last things you want to tell your audience before that maybe you haven't gotten to through the questions, and that will be the end of it. Mario, let's start out.
So, since the decision of Roe vs. Wade, more than 53 million abortions have occurred. That's more than 53 million lives that could have impacted you. And these lives, we're losing around more than 2 million, around 2 million lives a year like this. And that baby has the same value you have, because once you were a fetus, once you were there depending on your mother to feed you, to take care of you while in that belly. And we'll always depend on our parents and so far in this stage. Therefore, I say stick with pro-life, and pro-life, don't think it's against the baby or just against the mother. It's pro-life. That stands for the woman's rights also, but also for the babies. Because at the end of the day, that's a human. And humans, we value them.
Thank you.
As pro-choice, as I stated before, it is important to consider the woman's rights. It's not fair to a woman to have to give her life up, to sacrifice things she's not ready to sacrifice for a fetus that possibly has the potential for life, but at the same time, it is a fetus. You brought up abortions. 53 million abortions happened since Roe versus Wade overturned. But let's talk about the number of illegal abortions that occurred. The amount of illegal abortions that women are faced with because of these restrictions put on by the government. The number of illegal abortions that happen due to illegal abortions because state governments are imposing strict guidelines on what a woman should say. Like, for example, 24-hour wait periods, parental consent. These are just ways that undermine what a woman is feeling and undermine a woman's self-worth. And that should never happen. It's not fair for someone who gives life. It's not fair for someone who gives life that telling someone to keep that life. It is unfair to that woman to do that. So that's why I believe that pro-choice should be left. That pro-choice in itself, that decision of life should be left in the decision between a medical doctor and the woman.
Let's give them both a round of applause, guys. Thank you very much.